Top of the morning to you, and welcome to my video. Today we're going to be talking about aspects of design in a graphic design degree and the different ways you take in different compositions and ideas and paths and creative processes through graphic design projects. This semester in particular, I got the chance to work on a lot of fun projects. I got to create my own alphabet. I got to create a blade sign for a hypothetical business and building. And as you can see right here, I actually got to create a logo for a hypothetical type foundry, which was of my own creation. What I'll detail in the next few minutes is the process, the creative process in which I took to achieve this end product, kind of highlighting and detailing and kind of trying to spread the word of what I've learned in my short, non-historied career in graphic design, what to look out for, what to work on, what to take in consideration when you're doing all these sorts of different design pieces, and essentially how to go from project conception to project ideation and execution and doing it successfully. So for this project, we had to create a type foundry, which the subject matter and the purpose of this foundry was entirely up to us. All we had to do was create a name and create a logo for it, specifically a logo with a mark and text. The mark would be some kind of symbol or some kind of structural component that would hint to the overall brand architecture and identity of the hypothetical company we were creating. And so, of course, the first step was listing out every possible name and kind of going through a laundry list or a possible idea bank of different concepts I wanted to do. Me being a lover of old things and old advertising and old antiques and collecting, I thought that Bailey Type Company would be a good one, mainly taking the tradition of having it be a name incorporated with a type company. So after I was able to find a name that I felt was suitable and appropriate and exciting to get behind, Bailey being my own middle name after all, the next step in the creative process was to create thumbnail sketches. The purpose of thumbnail sketches is to kind of vomit all of your ideas and all of your conceptual feelings on the paper. That way when you get done, you can go back and kind of look at everything with a general scope and kind of pick and choose the different elements you wanted to use in your final composition. They don't need to be detailed. They don't need to be even good. Most of them are not going to be good. You can draw with your right hand. You can draw with your left hand. You can listen to angry music, happy music, sad music. The whole reasoning is kind of to push your brain to its limits, kind of go through that exhaustive process of kind of blurting out all these different ideas and then going through and picking and choosing and kind of cherry picking the different elements you want to use to create a better, more cohesive design. So in the thumbnail sketches, as you can see, I kind of picked up on the motif of a banner that I was seeing in a lot of my thumbnail sketches previously. These are more loosely formed, more structured and detailed thumbnail sketches. As you can see on the top left and the middle right ones, I particularly liked those. I liked the aesthetic of the banner, and then what I found was pleasantly surprising on the right one was I was trying to draw a graphic representation of a female figure because it's very emblematic of like pinup girls and advertising of the 40s and 50s, and I found that the graphic physique of the female body is very similar to that of a pen nib, and pen nibs were the essential utensil for drawing and writing, art making, and literature making for a very, very long time before pens and different other writing utensils and softwares and stuff were created. So I decided I really wanted to take that piece up in my design to kind of capture that aesthetic style. And another part of thumbnail sketches that you want to take into account is once you get in a certain direction, you want to move away from being more generalistic because you've already put down all your general ideas already. When you have a certain idea or direction you really like, I definitely recommend kind of honing in on it and really pushing through and kind of seeing the different ways and styles you can use to convey this feeling or this composition that you're really interested in. As you can see here I was working with the pen nibs as well as the banners to kind of see how it would work with like a banner wrapped around the pen nib, doing more illustrative or graphic depictions of that, and kind of messing around with the styles to see what would work best. All right, the ultimate composition and structure I ended up going with was Bailey Type Company, where the overall typeface was angled at about a 25 to 30 degree angle. And the mark itself, the pen nib that I wanted to use earlier, is actually fully integrated with the type. It makes up the T and the B of Baileyan type. And I really liked this because where a lot of traditional logos are made, the mark of the logo is separate from that of the text. And so the fact that I was able to kind of integrate and coordinate this mark with the actual type itself, I felt was very strong and very enticing and interesting to a potential audience. So I decided to kind of hone in on that and came up with this really general composition. And here, as you can see, I just took tracing paper, and my purpose and goal was to kind of find the different treatments of the type and how I thought it looked, whether a sans serif or serif font was in order, a decorative or handwritten typeface for Bailey in order to kind of create this feeling of like free-flowing and maybe even antique style. And I then took these and scanned them and brought them into Adobe Illustrator and traced them, making them into vector shapes. Making them in vector shapes is very important because vectors you can scale up and down and they're non-destructible. And you can scale them up and down and they're going to keep their own proportional properties, so they're not going to get distorted or anything like that. Very crucial and very necessary for logo making in general, and just creating good stuff. And that's just like a side tidbit. But here what I was doing was I was trying to kind of create a continuity in science for the logo itself that would be cohesive and acceptable, as well as kind of logical in the way that it was executed. Speaking to multimodality, every part of the creative process you're encountered with the thought of thinking about how it might be received, how it might be perceived, thinking about different ways you can tweak it and change it to change the overall narrative, taking into account texture treatment, surface treatment, color, as well as form. So, for the type, I chose to go in a very, uncontrasted stroke weight or typeface weight. Mainly because, if I'm trying to convey this feeling and message of a very structured, legacy-inducing company, you want it to have legs, you want to have a cornerstone, whereas other options, other more contrasted typefaces would kind of create this feeling of unbalance. That doesn't work in this this context. Another thing I'd like to point out in the bottom left corner was when I actually ended up taking the overall composition of the Bailey Type Company and straightening it out and seeing how that would work. And you can really see how it kind of changes the emotional, aesthetic, and emotional communication that it conveys to the audience, where it was originally very structured and rigid and kind of strong in that sense. Now it is kind of charging forward, and it creates this feeling of action and duty. I ended up not going in this direction, mainly because I thought that the obliqueness of that charging forward feeling could induce to a certain audience the feeling of unbalance and, kind of toppling over. So I wanted to stick with the idea of keeping it nice and structural. And alas, we have the final of the Bailey Type Company. It's important to take into account aesthetics and style and traditions and science and logic in every part of the creative process. A lot of people are going to have their own different ways of doing it and own different methods and, techniques and styles. But as one jeweler once told me, the most important part and the one thing that constitutes art, the only definition that constitutes art, is that it involves a creative process. So as long as someone is kind of just putting ideas from their own head to actuality, that is art. And for the purpose of this assignment, multimodality is present in every part of the creative process. The way you treat color or texture or surface treatment is very important, and the changing of one of them can completely change the contextual narrative of the piece. So you really want to take those things into account. I am rambling now, and I don't know how to properly end this video, so I think I'm just going to end it. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the intro. It took me a while, but it was very fun to make overall. Thank you.